Hunter children to do. This show, the Queen Quet, coming to Hunter from James Island, right here in the Gullah Geechee Nation, for Gullah Geechee TV Nation News. And we're so glad for dear you with my sister Michelle Johnson. Plenty of Hunter children who on We Gullah Geechee Nation Facebook fan page. Hunter to see she here right there. Well, now Hunter see she right here on the TV show. And I know this should be a blessing to Hunter, because we just had such an outstanding, not only honoring ceremony, but a memorial service that celebrated the life of a man that we all love, that lived here on James Island for so long we won't count the years. Brother Thomas Johnson, and I know that you just call him Dad.
Yes.
Yes. So tell us, how does this feel for you to have this park named for your dad today?
It's an honor, definitely an honor. Daddy spent a lot of time here. I spent a lot of time here growing up, and I remember when it was nothing but trees. You know, the sidewalks weren't here.
Yeah.
That was just dirt, the driveway, all of that, and the field house wasn't even here right there.
Okay.
So I mean, I remember, and it's just a pleasure to see so many other people recognize some of the gifts that he brought, that the Lord allowed him to share while he was here.
And he did that.
Yes.
Yes, with so many people in so many ways. And what I loved about what y'all did today, I come to a lot of these ceremonies, you know, and all of this, but this was down home, and the family being here is such a blessing, and especially until they put the crocker sack over the side. So we had a true Gullah Geechee unveiling. Y'all gonna get a chance to see it up close and personal. And I know you teach now, and you teach in Orangeburg County.
Yes, I teach.
So now I guess this is really significant to you as a teacher.
Yes.
Because you can actually teach living history in your class.
And I've always done that. One of the things I thank God for my students, they actually honored me this year with WLTX Golden Apple Teacher. And so I had the opportunity to share a lot of what Daddy instilled in me. And I found that that old school teaching way, I'm only 34, but that old school teaching is what our students need.
Absolutely.
And they need history. They need to know what's going on around them. And the only way they're going to know is if we share it, if we have the power
to share. Exactly. And so y'all have heard me say it before, and y'all will hear me say it 1,000 more times, I'm sure, before I leave the earth. If Hunter ain't gonna know where Hunter did from, Hunter ain't gonna know where Hunter to go. And another thing is what the children must know. You must teach them. So we thank your dad for teaching you, and we thank you for continuing on and passing on that gold. You deserve that golden apple. And so, as y'all can see, we are sweating because we are about to hit 100 mark here on the Sea Islands in the Gullah Geechee Nation. So that field house she talking about is a field indoors. We about to go inside, but as we go inside, we want you to stay tuned where you are and see this whole ceremony in honor of our brother, her dad, Thomas Johnson. And the next time you come to the Gullah Geechee Nation, come to James Island to Thomas Johnson Park. Hunter chillin' know. If Hunter did with me, Hunter gwine know. This year, it what gwine know.
Now we will have words of reflection by Mrs. Carol Jacobson, followed by Mrs. Louise Maybank, who is the chairman again of the Greenbelt Advisory Board. And then we will have the Recreation Board member, Ms. Laurie Yarborough, to come forward in that order, please.
This is short, it's hot. I'll try and do it fast. Education was one of the most powerful motivators for Thomas Johnson. When the Friends of McLeod first came together to fight for the plantation, we would talk about why we wanted to save it. For some it was family, for some it was history, but for Thomas it always was about education. Thomas frequently repeated what a planning commission board member said. McLeod shows what there was, how far we have come, and how far we need to go. Slavery happened, and McLeod shows that experience. How far we have come is another McLeod experience. How far we need to go rested each one of us. When the College of Charleston was considering using the field for athletics, Thomas took Dottie George and me to see the president of the college. The president brought all of his vice presidents with him. So we sat and talked about why they should not be doing what they were planning on doing. One thing you should know and probably do, when Thomas coughed, well, he didn't cough, he, hi Queen Quet. Oh, it's so nice to see you.
Nice to be here.
I'm sorry.
Didn't mean to throw you
Anyway,
off.
when Thomas went, which I'm calling a cough, we learned that meant he was going to say something, so everybody should be quiet. The president and vice presidents of the college didn't know this, so it took about 4 of them before he could speak. But when he did speak, they started to listen. He told them about the plantation and the fields as sacred ground because of all the history important to African Americans surrounding them, and how necessary it was to keep that history intact and alive for his people and for all the generations to come. He told them what they were planning was wrong. That's because Thomas was usually right. He loved education and equality. Many of us tried for a long while to be equal to Thomas, but it never worked. And so the future generations may know who Thomas Johnson was and why a park was named after him. The Friends of McLeod are giving this picture, and you can actually put it right. This is for the Westchester Civic Association, along with the biography of Thomas that you all have that's on the back, to hang in the field house so that others will know something of who this man was and why we honor him today. Another gift to the association from the Friends of McLeod are 5 copies of the DVD named McLeod Plantation, A Walk with History. Thomas narrated this, so you can hear his voice forever and ever, even through the fog of history. Thank you.
Doing all right, bro? You getting ready to graduate, huh?
Already graduated.
Get out of here. You don't graduate?
Thank you all for inviting me to participate in this very, very special day. Thomas Johnson and I
That's all right, man.
met
That's a
each
good
other
job.
as members of the Charleston County Greenbelt Advisory Board. We were 2 members of a 14-person committee. We met, and our purpose was to design the law that would expend the funds that were collected under the half-cent sales tax for the Greenbelt side of the half-cent sales tax program. We met twice a month for several hours over a period of a year and a half. And as you can imagine, 14 people from 14 different parts of the county had 14 different ideas about how the money should be spent and allocated. I was the chair of the committee, and it was my responsibility to fulfill this assignment that had been given to the 14 of us. But I knew that there was no way to do that alone, that the strength had to come from within the members. And it was not long before I could identify where my strength would come from. It was your Thomas Johnson. He was wise and articulate. He was thoughtful and patient and respectful, honorable, and a man of full integrity. And I feel that as we go forward in this neighborhood, in this city, this community, that the name Thomas Johnson will be emblazoned on the sign and on the plaque. But more importantly, I hope that people that come and go, both old and young alike, will always know why he's gone. But anyway, this wonderful person will had the honor and was deserving of having a city park named for him.
Thomas Johnson, wise and articulate, kind, giving, and very, very honorable and full of integrity. May we all be proud of him and his legacy. Thank you.
Thank you all for the opportunity to be here. Just a couple of words from the City of Charleston's perspective. I do want to make sure Councilmember Hallman, who's on our standing commission of the Rec Commission, Councilmember Wilson, who has served this area in the past, and it would always agree with Mr. Johnson that recreation was the #1 priority, wouldn't you? That was an agreement. And then Brad Nettles, who's the chairperson of our Rec Commission, all those folks have had an opportunity to work with Mr. Johnson over the years, as did I. The difference is I had a job. Mr. Johnson had a passion. I love my job. I love serving the people of the city of Charleston, including Westchester. And as I look around, I see how joined everyone is between Mr. Frazier, Mr. Matthews, Al Green, Miss McDaniel. You know, Mr. Johnson and Westchester, wasn't just him, it was a connection to this community that he's shared with all of you. And so, while his telephone number is still fresh in my head, because anytime I needed something on James Island, I could call Mr. Johnson, and if he wasn't there, they had a great answering machine, and he'd always call me back and was willing to do, and he was free to call me anytime I could help. And this community is just such a neat community to work with and work for. We appreciate civic leaders, community leaders in our country like Mr. Johnson. And I know the thing that always touched me the most when I'd come out to Westchester for the Easter egg hunt or for the Halloween event, which is 2 of the big ones they used to have to bring the kids out, because it was always about the kids. Not only did he take care of his friends and the kids of this neighborhood, but the loving way he treated Miss Johnson. It was just such a nice thing to see, and it always stuck with me. He always wanted to make sure she had what she needed and wanted, and she made cotton candy as he was doing hot dogs. So they were quite a combination. And I've enjoyed my years of having the chance to work with them, and I think the fitting name of Westchester Park to Thomas Johnson Park is a great way to celebrate this man today. So thank you.
Well, to surmise, then, when you have a person who knows how to be a friend, then many people want to walk with him and be his friend also. And that's what I'm hearing, that he was a true friend and a lover and a passionate giver of his community, his friends, his family, and we were blessed to have been touched by his life. Without further ado, then, we want to call to allow a moment to his pastor, the pastor of St. James Presbyterian Church, Reverend Dr. Charles Hayward, would come before you right now, followed by the community members, Mr. Eugene Frazier, we know him as Son Frazier, and Mr. Matthew. Excuse me, let me back up a little. Then we'll have Miss Michelle Johnson representing the family members, and then our community leaders, Mr. Eugene Frazier and Mr. Joseph Matthew will come. In that order, please.
Thank you, Pastor. I just wanted to take a moment on behalf of the St. James Presbyterian Church and John's church family to offer up 3 words. I experienced, as Laurie said, his passion. His passion for whatever he placed his hands to, whatever he believed God called him to do and to give leadership to. I also saw in Tom one who exercised the wisdom of being wise for the wisdom that God had wisely given to him. That is to say, that he learned, and what he learned, he sought the wisdom of investing what he knew into others. And then caring. That caring that he demonstrated for Carol and his wife spilled over into this community and to his church. I want you to know that whatever you know about Tom Johnson, that he was at the community meetings, he was at the park giving leadership. He was going to and fro from schools to college, wherever he needed to go to make a difference. I do want you to know that every Sunday he was in church worshiping the Lord, his God. And I know if he and Carol was not there, it was only a matter of health concern and needing to be sure they were managing what the Lord had given to them. Tom Johnson was a community servant, and I'm glad to be his pastor, along with Carol, St. James Presbyterian Church, to say to you, he was a Christian.
Good afternoon. I brought this with me. I always fuss at my students about printing the night before, and here I am printing the day of, and I'm thankful for my brother that he has technology. We weren't able to print this morning. Just to share a few things, I do want to reiterate that my father really did stress the importance of education, not only education in terms of school books, but financial education, community education, political education, historical education. That was a big thing to him. So much so that he caused me to change my mind about where I wanted to go to college. I ended up going to South Carolina State University. He encouraged me to make sure that I work and get a job. And I worked at McDonald's over there, the old McDonald's across from the McLeod plantation for years. And one day I said, I'm tired of this. I said, I'm tired of working at McDonald's. I'm in college, I'm a junior, I need to start doing something else. And he said, well, why don't you try the Department of Education, I mean not department, the internship, get an internship with the city of Charleston. And lo and behold, my internship was at the Department of Recreation. So I got to see the flip side of everything that my dad had to make sure that he worked so hard to get here. So one other thing I wanted to share with the education is that Daddy, he sent the Friends of McLeod CD with EVP to me. And I had it for a whole year before I actually listened to it and played it. And so after my students listened to it, they said, we need to go there. We're not going to get on a bus and go. Well, I told Dad, I said, well, what do we need to do to make sure that we come down to the McLeod plantation? He told me what I needed to do, and I talked to the people. And I don't think he thought that I was bringing the number of students. I think he expected 10, but I brought 4 buses of students from Orangeburg, South Carolina, to come and see and visit the plantation. And unfortunately, it was closed this year, but with the help of Ms. Jacobson and some others, someone made a way for us to go out there and visit. So it's good to have people in place because I know that's something you would have enjoyed and liked to see. But I wanted to share with you my technology. I think I locked it. Okay. I wanted to share with you a letter from Mr. Darren Goss, who is a former community member. When they first decided to organize and establish the Westchester Playground, I was very, very young. And all I remember is them going to meetings all the time. So I can give a testimony to the amount of time that was put into making sure that the students had somewhere to go, the children in the community had a safe place to play. Many nights I remember staying there till 10 o'clock, falling asleep at Mr. Glover's house by the computer. Thank God he had that to keep me entertained. But Mr. Goss, they call him Chico, was one of the young men at the time that played football for James Allen High School. And my mother and daddy actually worked with some youth, and one of them I met in there. I remember Shaniqua, she's in there. But he wanted to send his word, and he says, good morning, I consider it a great honor to be able to send this note of gratitude for the renaming of the Westchester Park of to Mr. Thomas Johnson Park. The ceremony today stands as a lasting testimony to the incredible impact he has had on so many lives, including my own. I believe the purest and truest form of leadership is that which is quiet and long-lasting. Mr. Johnson was obviously that kind of leader, and to his family I say congratulations on this recognition of a great man and community leader. Mr. Goss goes on to say, the Thomas Johnson Park means more to me than most would imagine. It was a place that I forged friendships and have a lasted lifetime of relationships, created a commitment to a team, and where I learned to serve as a Trojans football team quarterback in 1987 and 1988. He fueled me as a member of the Wofford Terrier football team from 1989 to 1993, directed me as an Army officer, and he went on to become an officer from 1993 to 2001, and he says it was that which Daddy invested, which now guides me as the vice president of a team of 17 nonprofit professionals at the United Way, Greenville County. So it goes to say that it pays to sow a seed. You never know where it may grow. He went on to say, the park not only kept me out of trouble during a time when drugs and alcohol was rampant, but it taught me the lessons of accountability, responsibility, and integrity. It gave me an outlet to improve my athletic skills while also working on social skills of negotiating with the older guys for a game on the court, learning how to lose with pride and then compete with character on the football team, and most importantly, it gave me a wonderful place to learn humility. I learned most of all that someone who I can vaguely remember was an advocate for a place for us, a place that we could call our own, a place of equal programming and quality in our community for us as children. I remember that being so special for us and running through the cut across the ditch from Seacroft Road and onto the court almost every day, taking breaks to walk alongside and soak up some of that free AC. He goes on to say that place, that very special place, the Thomas Johnson Park, probably saved my life. It most certainly improved me as a person, and in no small way has it made me the man I am today. He says thank you to the family and community members in the city of Charleston. He says thank you to the neighborhood leaders who pushed and pleaded and won on the community behalf and the children, for behalf of the children. I wish I could be there, but as I learned so many years ago, it is the great strength of family and the support of the community that makes the biggest difference. So you are all there, and your presence is still making a difference. It is so lifting that you are doing what you are doing today there in honor of Mr. Johnson for his leadership, because at this time, and as you are reading my letter, I am at the Sterling Community Center in the city of Greenville, a community park, just like Thomas Johnson Park, on a community panel, just like Thomas Johnson, discussing how neighborhoods and communities can organize for an effective change. So that's from Mr. Stephen Chico Goss, and on behalf of our family, we would like to say thank you very much for all that you have done. Thank you.
In working with Thomas in our community over the past 30 years prior to his passing, I am sure that many of you here, if not all of you, are aware of his contribution helping many others' community in the Charleston County area. This honor could not be bestowed on a better man. Without taking much of your time, I would like to say that I am one who is proud of Thomas' leadership, his accomplishment, this community. They are many. And I'd like to point out at least 3 areas, and this area is one, his passion for the organization to preserve and protect African American cemetery. And many of you here now know the struggle, even from the late Reverend Cornelius Campbell of St. James Presbyterian Church, the same church that Reverend Hill is now in charge of, on the African American cemetery and preserving it. And to move on, many of them here with the struggle. 5 years ago, Thomas Johnson and I was mapping out African American cemetery, and we went to this one particular cemetery off of Fort Johnson Road because we were aware that there was a cemetery. And we walk up into this cemetery, private cemetery, and the man wanted to know, what are you doing here? This is my property. And there was a fence. There was a fence around about 20 to 25 grave sites. We says, we're here to map the grave of our ancestors. He said, well, this is my property. And says, if you wait for a few minutes, I'll change some clothes and come out with you in the gravesite. I looked at Thomas Johnson, I says, you own these gravesites? You own these headstones? I said, these are our ancestors that buried maybe 100 years, some of them 150 years. And you're telling me that we have to get permission from you to go in that cemetery? And to make a long story short, I was beginning to get agitated. Some of you know that I can get downright indignant if a person quotes me wrong. And so Thomas said, Frazier, let's back off. Let's do it right. And as a result of that, Thomas and I sat down and he wrote out what is now, he wrote out a proposal for a bill. And he had Representative Robert Brown from Hollywood sponsor that bill in Columbia. And Thomas and I and a lady by the name of, I think her last name is Elliott, Martha Elliott, a member of our church, St. James Church, made 3 trips to Columbia. And Thomas and I stood on this legislative floor and talked in support of this bill. And with the help of Senator Glenn McConnell and Bobby Scarborough, that bill was passed. The bill was passed allowing us to go in any cemetery, private, unquote, to preserve and protect that cemetery. And not only African American, but Confederate cemetery or Native Indian. And it's now a state law that they cannot stop us from doing that. And that's one of the things I always think about Thomas Johnson in preserving African American cemetery. And if you look to your front, right to your left up there, there's a sidewalk on C-section road right here. Prior to that, Thomas Johnson was instrumental in working with the highway department and county and city in reference to put that sidewalk that you see walking out there. And also working with Bob George, in reference to the hump you see in Westchester. And Thomas Johnson, one of his pet peeves was, so many things have been said, Frazier, him and Glover, the Glovers out here too, we have got to get these young people to take over leadership in this community. And as a result of that, Thomas Johnson and I and Glover bamboozle, insist, and to make a long story short, Donna McDaniel is elected president. Willis Conyers, Bernard Smalls, that you see sitting over there, and I don't see my secretary in Westchester. Where's Bill?
Right here.
Yeah, never been there, secretary. I didn't name you because you've been here. And so, I believe that Thomas Johnson is looking down now, Donna, and smiling.
Mr. Johnson wasn't just a good man. He was a father too. He sit me down, he told me a lot of things that, son, if you want to do it right. Be faithful what you do. Because if you're going to be a good coach, you got to be a good leader. You can't lead these kids and get out here and do wishy-washy stuff and then want to be a leader. So I respect him for giving me and leading me and guiding me to be able to go on and do things the right ways. And it's true to remember where you come from. That's what it's all about. Never forget where you come from.
Tyrone Johnson, son of Mr. Johnson, will come up and give us some closing remarks.
Well, I do want to thank everyone on behalf of my mother, Carolyn Johnson, and the rest of the family for attending the ceremony today. We really do appreciate all the support that you've had done in the renaming of this park to the Westchester Park to the Thomas Johnson Park. There are so many people that the family would like to thank in the effort to make this park come about. Without the hard work of Donna McDaniel and the other officers of the Westchester Civic Association, none of this would have happened. Laura, thank you. I would also like to thank, or we would like to thank, Laura Yardworld and the City of Charleston Recreation Center, Recreation Department, along with the Friends of McLeod, who worked with Donna to give my father this distinct honor. And also, thank you for the people who spoke today, for all of you who listened, and all the people who knew my father and helped bring this thing together. The donors for the signs, the people who donated the food, and the work to organize this all brings us a deep sense of gratitude and caring for everyone. But before I close, I just want to give just a quick story. I know and talked to my father many times. We talked about this park, and many of you knew how humble he was. And I think if you had asked him, you know, if he wanted to have the park renamed Thomas Johnson Park, because of his humbleness and what he thought about this community, he probably wouldn't have said yes. But I believe that it is because of the love and all the hard work and dedication that he's given, along with working with everyone here in the Westchester community, that it is honored, and it is the right thing to do to name this park in honor of my father, Thomas Johnson Park. And finally, I'd just like to say thank you for this honor that has been bestowed upon my father, Thomas Johnson. And somehow we know he understands why we are here today, and he is smiling down on us. Thank you.
Yes, he is.